coming, might be a long, long time gone. We've been traveling down this road for so long. It feels like the same old road, same old song. There's a bridge at the edge of the world. Cross over to the other side. The voices of the future, they're calling back to us, and they're asking if we might see beyond our own time. If we might see beyond our own time. With our backs to the future, we're pulled toward it, listening to the voices of the brave. But you can't hear the words through the noises. Songs of the heart and mind can't have their say. The voices of the future, they're calling back to us, and they're asking if we might see beyond our own time. That we might see beyond our own time. Might be a long, long time gone. Been a long time coming. Might be a long, long time gone.
We're here today to shout out from the mountaintops that workers and riders from all neighborhoods and walks of life should have safe, affordable, and reliable means of transportation without stress of struggle.
4 years ago, on February 4th, Rosa Parks' birthday, in partnership with the Amalgamated Transit Union, we launched Transit Equity Day to declare transit equity as a civil right.
During the pandemic, transit workers have been a lifeline to our communities and frontline workers who must get to their life-saving jobs.
Losing the battle for public transit is losing the war for the working class.
We have always been essential.
For low-income communities and communities of color, owning a car is often out of reach. And without a car, finding job opportunities is a struggle. It doesn't have to be this way.
From the elderly to the young, to the middle, to the disabled. Make it fair for everyone.
I am totally blind from birth with multiple other disabilities. Transit-dependent riders, youth, elders, people with disabilities have no choice but to ride.
The lack of quality private transit services significantly hinders the ability of people with disabilities to live full lives.
This is an equity issue in terms of making sure we have the transit system that actually serves not just the well-to-do, but every working person and every poor person.
It was challenging for me to wake up early every day and try my best to not miss the bus, but I had so much tolerance, not because I was playing around, but because of public transportation.
Make no mistake, transit and postal service both serve to preserve and foster our democracy.
Public officials need to be listening to this, and they need to do something about this.
We need to prioritize a clean economy, which includes transportation.
There is only about a 10-year window left to reduce emissions in order to avoid cataclysmic climate change.
Before being hired by BYD, I drove long-haul truck. At BYD, I'm able to make electric buses. They don't put out toxic fumes. Clean energy versus diesel energy. Big difference, makes the heart feel good.
We can fund transit and we can fund clean energy. We must fund them both.
Because the public counts on it and they need it.
Welcome to Transit Equity Day 2022. In 2018, in honor of Rosa Parks' birthday, the Labor Network for Sustainability partnered with the Amalgamated Transit Union to declare transit equity as a civil right. Every year since then, on February 4th, dozens of actions have been held around the U.S. to demand affordable fares, increased service, and greater accessibility, especially in low-income communities, communities of color, and rural areas. We've uplifted our transit workers while addressing public transit as a solution to environmental injustice and climate change. As we enter another year of COVID-19, we will reflect on our remaining challenges and the victories we've celebrated, while centering the voices of transit riders, workers, and civil rights, climate, and environmental justice activists, online and on the ground. From the rural and metropolitan areas of Wisconsin and Southern California to the densely populated areas of Atlanta, Philadelphia, the Bay Area, and Brooklyn, to the suburbs of the state of Indiana, Buffalo, Albuquerque, and Charleston, South Carolina. Transit Equity Day is once again everywhere. And what about our transit workers? Today, we will hear from Amalgamated Transit Union International President John Costa, along with Transit Equity Day co-founder and Labor Network for Sustainability Executive Director Michael Leon Guerrero, as they discuss our national call on transit agencies to invest in workers. For without a stable, skilled, and experienced transit workforce, there will always be challenges to achieving a public transportation system that is truly equitable. We have an amazing lineup today. Stay with us. And now your host, Labor Network for Sustainability Transit Organizer, Bakari Height.
Yay!
Thank you for the applause. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today. My name is Bakari Height, and I'm the transit organizer with Labor Network for Sustainability. And we'd like to welcome you all to Transit Equity Day 2022. We're glad that you have joined us for this momentous occasion as we showcase all the defiant actions of our labor organizers, our avid transit riders, as well as with our local transit organizers, and what they're doing to better their system and rewrite the inequities in their transit systems, wherever they may be. It may be in Boston, it may be in Atlanta, it may be in the great state of Indiana, but it also may be in the great state of California. We're doing something different this year, where we're actually live streaming a lot of the actions that are going on. So we'll see a mixture of live events as they're happening in real time, as well as with pre-recorded content from actions that have happened days prior or in years prior. We want to share this with you all, and we want you all to share this with your friends and your family and those who are in the transit community. Please hashtag Transit Equity Day and also follow us on our social media networks, LN4S on Twitter, as well as with Labor for Sustainability. That's Labor, the number 4, Sustainability on Facebook and on Instagram. We thank you all for joining us, and we want for you all to continue the conversation. As for the next 2 hours, we'll be going live to all of you and showcasing everything that you all are doing on Rosa Parks' birthday. Happy birthday, Rosa Parks, and thank you all for joining us. First off, we'll be going to Nicole Wong. Nicole Wong is the Community Partnerships Manager with Green for All, a program of the National Social Justice Nonprofit Dream Corps. Previously, she worked as a campaign manager focused on advancing the adoption of cleaner and more equitable transportation options in disproportionately impacted communities. She is an active transit rider and based in Oakland, California. Nicole, thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you so much, Bakari, for having me. And good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here. As Bakari mentioned, I work with Green for All, and we are working to mobilize both people and policy to advance solutions that are addressing poverty and pollution. So transit equity is such a critical piece of this. And specifically, transit equity is also just a near and dear to my heart. I've been a lifelong transit rider and user, an advocate, and having ridden transit to get to school and to get to work, I do understand just how critical transit is for folks from all walks of life. My first job out of college was essentially across the city from me, and so to get from the west to the southeastern part of town, I needed to ride 2 buses, and so that was around a 3-hour commute every day. And on the one hand, I got to see nurses and construction workers and early risers join me and just see who was relying on transit. And also it became really clear to me, and I think this has become especially clear during the pandemic, how much commute time impacts people's quality of life. And so, that's another piece that, definitely want to uplift here is how transit is an economic and racial justice issue. Folks of color are less likely to own their own car and more likely to have a longer commute time. And so that directly impacts people's access to opportunity. But it's not only that, it's also an environmental and climate justice issue. And so just due to a history of transportation policies and decisions that have had discriminatory impacts, people of color are more likely to live near busy roads and ports, and therefore have higher exposure to pollution that harms our health. And that being said, transportation is also the top contributor to greenhouse gases in the United States. So when we invest in public transit, we're investing in a critical lower carbon mobility option. So we can get more cars off the road and help tackle the climate crisis, which again impacts low-income people of color the most. So just super excited to uplift all these connections here and be able to highlight how transit is going to be essential as we continue to come out of the pandemic and think about how to build a more regenerative economy for everyone.
Absolutely, and you really touched on a really wonderful statement as far as the disproportionate travel times with people, and especially communities of color. And I think that's really also wonderful to highlight this from the climate perspective, because these are usually neighborhoods that are next to highways and usually traffic clogged highways where you have a lot of carbon emissions coming from tailpipes that are going into this. So it's really good. And it's really good that Green for All is highlighting this. So are there any actions that Green for All is doing currently to combat this?
Yeah, thank you for lifting that. So, Green for All is just doing everything we can to amplify what's happening today on Transit Equity Day. So we're uplifting this with our supporters through email, through text, and social media. And also, I would say that our Common Ground campaign, which launched last year, is continuing to highlight how transit equity is actually a critical bipartisan issue. So it's something that folks from both sides of the aisle can get behind. My colleagues were able to host listening sessions last year with both conservatives and liberals to identify what are essential issues that folks across the political aisle can get behind to address the climate crisis. And one of the key pieces that came out of that conversation and is now part of that platform is investing in accessible, affordable public transit. And so that's something that we're continuing to find ways to be able to uplift at both the state and the federal level. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think it's good to have those kind of partners on hand so they can usher in this conversation with the federal partners, because they have to see that on the ground, it's a different story from what they hear and what they may perceive. So it's good that you all are ushering in this conversation with these folks, and also speaking for those who can't speak for themselves. We did mention a lot of the folks that do rely on public transit. And a lot of these meetings are usually during work hours, or they're usually at the most inopportune times. So it's good that we're making this connection with this. Nicole, where can people find you, or where can people join into the Green for All campaigns?
Yeah, definitely. So everyone can find us essentially across all the different social media channels, but specifically we're at Green for All on Twitter. And today, feel free, anyone, to text green in all capital letters to 97843. That's how you can get involved and join our email list. We'll continue to highlight ways to get involved with Green for All and our various campaigns in the coming months. And, one other thing, Bakari, that I want to highlight that's just related to this conversation about, federal investments in public transit is that there is a historic disparity in terms of how our country spends money on our transportation system. So much of that funding typically goes towards highways and expanding highways, essentially, rather than investing in public transit that allows, folks with maybe the least access to economic means opportunity to get around. And so that sort of 80%, 20% split is something that we need to absolutely tackle. And an event like today is really highlighting the ways in which everyone from transit workers to riders to supporters, activists, and allies are centering around transit as a key way to tackle not only the climate crisis, but essentially the biggest injustices around racial and economic inequality of our time.
Absolutely. And we also like to thank Green for All, because they were one of the main funders of Transit Equity Day. So none of this would have been possible without the support of our funders, and Green for All was definitely there to promote all of this. And we definitely thank you, and we thank you to Green for All for your tremendous contributions. It's really wonderful to uplift this and just be in the corner of those who can't necessarily have a voice as immediate as possible. So we definitely thank you for that. Any last words?
No, thank you so much, Bakari, for having us. And just we are super proud to be sponsors this year and proud participants for a third year in a row. We're just really inspired by the work that Labor Network for Sustainability is doing, and that all the amazing organizers and activists across the country are doing today. And so if folks want to continue to share the story, of course, hashtag Transit Equity Day, but also transit is essential. We're continuing to ask folks to share their transit is essential story and why they continue to rely on transit. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited for all the incredible speakers to come. Absolutely.
Nicole, Wong for Green for All, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
That was wonderful. And again, we thank Green for All for their contributions to Transit Equity Day. It was really wonderful. And also wonderful to hear Nicole speak about, her growing up and using transit. And that's a lot of folks' exposure to it, whether they go off to college or whether they move to a big city. It's good to explore that. I know that was definitely the case for me when I moved to Atlanta and explored all the options that I could use as far as bus and as far as heavy rail. And it really just got me interested in and writing in it and figuring out how we can better it. Like, it was wonderful, but there was still a lot of expansions and a lot of points of the service that we could really improve on. And that's when I learned how to get into organizing and activism. And it really helped me tenfold as far as, figuring out where we could go from this. And that's all we need, is the encouragement of others, and especially with a lot of these groups. Later on in the program, we will be showcasing a lot of the other groups that didn't get a chance to live stream with us. And we'll be showing everything that they're going to be doing as far as their actions within their community, that you could also see on our websites as well as on our social media networks. Pretty soon, we're going to have our folks from this great state of Indiana, and they're going to speak to us about this. Really quickly, I want to just go to our Twitter and show what's going to be happening on the hashtag for Transit Equity Day. First off, I see Amir Faroki, which is one of the council members for the city of Atlanta, posting a video. And it says, earlier this week, in advance of hashtag Transit Equity Day, I hopped on the MARTA service 899 bus from the Old Fourth Ward to the Georgia State Station. Hopefully you use our transit system too. Yes, and we'll be speaking to some folks in Atlanta with what this is related to as the competition that they presented to the new city council members, as well as the new mayor, Andre Dickens. So more to come with that. But as we go into this now, we are going to go to our folks from Indiana. But before that, we would like to also recognize a couple of our other fiscal sponsors. In addition to Green for All, we also would like to thank Greenpeace USA, 350.org, the National Resources Defense Council, as well as the United Methodist Women. And I actually had a chance to be on a panel with the United Methodist Women a couple of weeks ago. Really wonderful organization. We discussed the transit inequities, and we also discussed everything around the sun. It was really wonderful, and so definitely shout out to them as well. Well, now we're going to go to Sheila Curry-Campbell. Sheila is a current native of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and very active in the community, serving as the first district councilwoman with the responsibility of establishing an annual budget for county government. Sheila is a member of Centering Equity in the Sustainable Building Sector Leadership Team. Most recently, Sheila has served as a treasurer and past president NAACP, Fort Wayne and Allen County branch. Before becoming president, Sheila has served on many committees in leadership roles like the Environmental Justice Chair. We will also be hearing from the Apostle, Dr. Frederick Forde, as well as with Dr. Pressey. Sheila, thank you for coming.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful. I'm blessed and highly favored. And thank you all for joining us. I know it's snowing heavily in Fort Wayne, Indiana, as well as with the whole state. So we're hoping that you all are all right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Our event was scheduled for today, but due to the weather, we rescheduled it for Tuesday. And so what we have today is a short clip. We had an awesome program. Some of the things that we did here in Fort Wayne, we had a local artist from Fresh Laundry, Theophilus Smith, and he did an interpretation of Rosa Parks. It's the dress that she actually made that's hanging in the Historic Museum in Washington, D.C. So we were excited about that. Councilman Glenn Hines, who serves on the board of Citilink, he is the vice chair, gave us a little history. We had a third generation, Richard Thomas Jr. From Citilink. He's an employee there. They gave us a testimony. And then our local president of the local NAACP, Branch 3049, woo-hoo, Larry Giz, gave us some remarks. And then we had Chief Condra Ridley do an interpretation of Rosa Parks. And our mayor, Tom Henry, we also got a proclamation for Rosa Parks Day, and my pastor emceed the event, Raymond C. Dix. And so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to give you the therefore on our whereas that we received from our mayor, Tom Henry. Therefore, be it resolved that the Pilgrim Baptist Church Green Team and Citilink hereby support the call to observe the Day of Action on Public Transportation as a civil right on February the 4th of 2022. And be it further resolved that Pilgrim Baptist Church Green Team prioritize hiring of economically disadvantaged people, people of color, people from communities currently underserved by transit and or overexposed to vehicular and other forms of pollution. people with disabilities, workers displaced from pollution industries, formerly incarcerated people, and other marginalized populations for transit operation and construction jobs. Now, therefore, I, Thomas C. Henry, Mayor of the City of Fort Wayne, Indiana, do hereby proclaim February the 4th, 2022 as Transit Equity Day. Next, we'll hear from J.B. Pressey, Dr. Pressey, and followed by him will be Dr. Forde in a short video of the signing of our pledge. And so you will hear the APTA Racial Equity Pledge, and that's from the CEO of Citilink, John Metzinger. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will bring in Dr. Forde and Apostle Pressey as well. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Certainly, I'm so glad to be here and to be a part and participate in this Transit Equity Day. I am one who rides the transit system every single day here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I have an opportunity to talk to the patrons and to talk to the bus drivers and to relay to them, you know, how things are going, how people feel about what's taking place, so that they can go back and speak to their supervisors and the powers that be that have their hand and their pulse on the people and how the people are feeling about the transit. One of the things that I noticed when I first came to Indiana 10 years ago was that the first seat in every bus was dedicated to Rosa Parks. And that just enlightened my heart. And so we certainly celebrate her and for all that she had done in the bus boycott. And we just thank the Lord that we can participate in this, participate in the inequities, and try to make things better for the city of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll also want to ask this to Dr. Forde as well. Tell us a little bit about Fort Wayne in the context of Transit Equity Day.
Fort Wayne is approximately 111 square miles. And so it's a large, vast area. And the bus system does encompass quite a bit of it, but it doesn't go everywhere. And so we're trying to also get it to move and expand some of the various routes, as well as the time frames. It closes down early on Saturday and it doesn't run on Sunday at all. So these are just some of the things that we want to address, and we certainly want to address transit bringing Amtrak through Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne being the second largest city in the state of Indiana, it needs to come through here. And so these are just some of the things we're working with Sheila Campbell on, and just trying to make a difference.
Absolutely. Dr. Pressey, I want to get to you as well. Tell us about the role of the church in transit equity and how imperative it is to have that institution in such a movement like this.
Well, I would say that the role of the church right now has been very sparse in terms of what Sheila Campbell has been able to bring to the table. So I think Trans Equity Day in Fort Wayne, Indiana is something relatively new, and we're in an educational, motivational phase of the importance of our transit system, here, in Fort Wayne. And because of the work that Sheila is doing and bringing us together, you asked Dr. Forde about Fort Wayne. One of the characteristics of Fort Wayne is that we are a city of leaders. There's leadership in this city that have been trained and developed over the years through a program called Leadership Fort Wayne, where many of the leaders have gone through and learned about the city. But when it comes to trans equity, it is something that most people really don't think about, because most people are driving cars every day. They drive past buses, but they never really see or feel the essential necessity of the transit system for many of our citizens in our communities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, definitely. We're about to go to the video of Citilink announcing the proclamation for Transit Equity Day. And let's cue the video.
Amen. That's great. Fantastic. All right, this time we're going to have the APTA Racial Equity Pledge. We're going to bring John Metzinger, CEO of Citilink. John, welcome.
Good morning, John. Hi, everybody. So I joined Citilink in April of last year, and I'm very excited to be here today to make this commitment to racial equity on behalf of Citilink. But I want to recognize a couple of Citilink dignitaries before I begin. We're representing the board of directors of Citilink today. We have Forde, who is our board chair. We have Clint, city councilman, and our vice chair. Mr. Nelson Coates, who is our board secretary. We have several other board members today, including Melissa Fisher and also Brenda Nickham, our newest board member. Thank you for attending today. I'd also like to recognize our partner in crime and operating Citilink is our ATU Local 682 unionized operators and mechanics. ATU President Steve Suspect is here today. Welcome, Steve. And then I'd like to recognize some of the staff as well, including Pam Sheila, Manager of Mobility and Customer Service, Ashley, our Marketing and Development Director, and also, of course, we just met Richard Thomas, who is Acting Operations Manager. So today, in recognition of the disparate health and economic impacts of the ongoing pandemic, also the tragic deaths of George Floyd, Lamont Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and so many others, and a recognition of the systemic racism and long-standing racial inequities that are deeply ingrained in our society. The American Public Transportation Association, or APTA, has proposed a 2-year racial equity commitment program that will lead public transportation agencies like Citilink across our nation on a pathway for advancing racial equity among our transportation systems. Racial equity is a term that means the condition that would be achieved if one's racial identity no longer predicted in a statistical sense how one fares in life, in key outcomes in life, including education, health, and economic status. Today, Citilink will be making a pledge to stand beside all the members in this community and advocate for every staff member, rider, board member, and partner of Citilink. We will be considered a founding signatory of the American Public Transportation Association's Racial Equity Commitment Program. And we are extremely grateful that our board of directors has unanimously approved and supported our decision to concentrate on racial equity as a key priority focus in our community. I'm proud to stand before you today as General Manager, CEO of Citilink, and pledge that as an organization, we will continually improve our diversity, equity, and inclusion practices to fulfill these core principles of the APTA Racial Equity Commitment. Excellent progress has already been made at Citilink. I'm pleased to report that of our 124 employees, 45% of our workforce are Black or African American. That's a point of pride for Citilink that we celebrate today. Citilink pledges to adhere to the timetables as outlined in APTA's program, and will be providing the community a progress report annually on our progress. So at this time, it is my honor to sign the pledge. So we'll make this available so you can all have a look at it. But this is what the pledge looks like. And I'm sure we'll have it on our website as well so people can have a look. And if you like, I'll just go ahead and sign it today.
Absolutely. We definitely thank our folks from Indiana for giving us and sharing with this proclamation. This is very, really wonderful. But yes, thank you to Sheila Curry-Campbell, as well as with Dr. Forde and Dr. Pressey. Before we go on to our next presenter, we have a very special video message from another Hoosier. Please enjoy.
This is Transit Equity Day. It's the birthday of Rosa Parks, who helped launch a movement because of a moment of courage when she was riding public transit. It's a great occasion for us not only to honor her, but to look at what transit equity means in America. I'm here with Nuria Fernandez, America's top transit official, the administrator of the Federal Transit Administration. And I can't think of a better person to have this conversation with. I would love to maybe to start by just asking you what transportation and transit equity means to you and how you think about it.
Well, transportation and transit equity is everything. It's synonymous to providing access and opportunities for everyone. That's what equity is, right? Leveling that playing field. And today is February 4th. And we're celebrating Rosa Parks' birthday. And Rosa Parks, because of the act that she took by not giving up her seat in a segregated bus system to a white man, started the movement, the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott. And that in itself was the beginning of the discussion around civil rights on public transportation.
It's an amazing reflection on how something that starts in one area like transit then reverberates into the rest of American life as that movement did in so many ways. I'm curious, not just as a policymaker, but also as a person, as a leader. You are the first Afro-Latina leader confirmed into this role. I would love to know a little more about how your career in transportation got started and what brought you to this point.
Well, I have to say, as you know, Mr. Secretary, I was born in Panama City, Panama, and I rode the bus everywhere. My memories go back to when I was 4, riding the bus with my mom and my brother to go visit our grandparents. And then from there on, throughout my entire, as a young adult and then as an adult. But what transit has meant is that it's the greatest equalizer. It really opens opportunities to everyone. So it doesn't matter who you are, where you're going. If you're at a public transportation system, whether in a bus stop or at a rail station, the doors open up, you step in, and that is the beginning of access to jobs, healthcare, education, or any other opportunities that you're seeking.
I love that image of the doors opening on the bus or the subway car, representing doors opening in so many other areas of life, if you can get to where you need to be in an equitable way. So as you know, there is a lot of work headed to your desk because the President's bipartisan infrastructure law, it's the biggest investment this country's ever made in public transit at a federal level. How are you and your colleagues working to make sure that that unfolds, not just in a timely way, but also in an equitable way that creates opportunity for everybody?
Yeah, well, we have organized ourselves so that we can, in fact, be quick and responsive. Everyone wants their money and they want it now. But we also want to be very thoughtful in the way that the dollars are being apportioned and allocated through the various communities, and ensuring through our discretionary programs that the priorities of this administration, the priorities of the Department of Transportation, that is equity, accessibility, climate change, that all of those are part of the decision-making process.
There's going to be so much to be proud of as we deliver on this work. I'm so excited. Well, we're so thankful for your public service and your leadership, and hope that you've enjoyed getting to know our administrator better. And again, just a great day to think about what's at stake in transit, transportation, equity, and making sure that everything we do serves every American.
Yes, we thank you so much for Secretary Pete Buttigieg and Administrator Nuria Fernandez. That was wonderful. There's gold in that hashtag of Transit Equity Day. So definitely please follow us on our Twitters as well as along our social medias, as well as would like, share, and subscribe to the LNS channel. We have so much more content from not only this, but for the Young Worker Project as well as other numerous amounts of projects that we've done. Next, we will stay into the Midwest. We will bring up Vera Mendoza, and as well as with Gail Francis. Vera Mendoza is the Ability Center for Disability Rights advocate focusing on housing and transportation. She comes to us as an experienced community organizer and advocate, having worked on issues including racial justice, immigration rights, education reform, LGBTQ plus protections, and healthcare access. Vera is a facilitator of community advocates for transportation rights, a grassroots organizing effort led by people with disabilities to increase transit access, equity, and funding in Northwest Ohio. Vera, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And we also have Gail Francis. Gail Francis is the Strategic Director of REAMP Network, a network of 130 organizations with a shared goal of equitably eliminating greenhouse gas emissions from the Midwest. Prior to coming to REAMP, she founded the Labor and the New Energy Economy program at the Center on Wisconsin Strategy. She previously worked as the communications director for Teamsters for a Democratic Union and as a field organizer for the United Electrical, Radio, and Machine Workers of America. She lives on Anishinaabe land in Duluth, Minnesota. Gail, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
So you all bring a huge power dynamic to the transit community that most of us have not seen yet, the Midwest. That one area that we don't really think about transit, that we don't really perceive as being transit, maybe in a place like Chicago because it's a legacy city for transit. But you know, you all are bringing this new perspective and this new energy from it. So I wanted to give both of you just kind of a chance to share about your experiences and what you all are doing with the Midwest.
Sure. Yeah, well, we are very excited. We are frankly rocking Transit Equity Day in the Midwest, I think. We had the governors of both Wisconsin and Minnesota make a proclamation that today is Transit Equity Day in the entire states. And we have had all kinds of proclamations through Iowa, Wisconsin, just the newest one in Toledo, which Vera can tell you about in a moment. And we've had people out there getting thank you cards for bus drivers and getting their representatives to ride the bus all week, you know, that if they haven't been used to that. And transit really is just vital in the Midwest. It doesn't matter whether you're in a big city or a small city. It's if you have to go to the grocery store, to work, to see your grandma, all of those things, it matters whether you live in Wausau, Wisconsin, or whether you live in New Jersey. And so we are very passionate about transit equity in the Midwest.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Vera, I want to get to you. You're working for the Disabilities Right Advocate and focusing on housing and transportation. What should the viewers take away from this, from the standpoint of those who are looking for ADA accessibility within transit?
Yeah, I think ADA standards are, of course, the base, and they shouldn't be seen as the ultimate goal, right? They're sort of the lower starting point when we come to universal, or we're talking about universal access. We're talking about when we bring up people with disabilities needing public transit, people immediately think of paratransit or some sort of addition to, but we can also make fixed route, transit that everyday users, can get on. We can make them wheelchair accessible, for example. It doesn't take much to make modifications to create a universal standard. Most of the time, if you walk up a ramp, you're not even thinking about it, that it's a ramp instead of a step, but that makes a huge difference for somebody who's using a mobility device. And in the Midwest, I think there has been sort of this idea that we all live in the middle of corn, which we do, and that, we're all just rural, but we're not. We actually do have larger cities, like Gail said. Lucas County recognized today as Transit Equity Day. That's Northwest Ohio. And in Toledo, we have a transit authority system that has a chance to finally expand. We just passed a new levy that will expand the budget by millions of dollars. And this is the time to start calling legislators, start calling leaders within transit authorities to say that you want people with disabilities to have equal access as anybody with, what we would say non-disabled access.
Absolutely. And I know we just had the video from Secretary Buttigieg and Nuria Fernandez as far as, the things that they want to do on. And we usually look at the Title VI, which is enforced federally, but not necessarily enforced statewide. So it's good that we do have these proclamations from the states of the governors of the state of Minnesota and of Wisconsin, so that they could work on that and they could integrate that to where they could enforce it, and then where they could build a lot more facilities so it would be easier for those who do have disabilities to bring this forefront. So we thank you for doing such. Gail, I want to go back to you as far as the REAMP network. It seems really massive as far as 130 organizations. How are you managing all of that, and what's some of the wonderful works that are being done within the REAMP network?
Sure, yeah. Well, the great thing about our network is we don't really manage it. We more just try to create a place where people can work together and do what needs to be done and see what emerges, which is really fun. And so the reason that REAMP has started convening Midwest-specific calls for Transit Equity Day is because our goal is to equitably eliminate greenhouse gas emissions from the entire Midwest, from all the sectors. And so when we look at transportation, what we really see as the biggest way to do that is to equitably eliminate the greenhouse gas emissions, is to make it so that people can get where they need to go without having to drive everywhere. So walking, biking, rolling, transit, thinking about the way cities are designed and so forth. And so when we heard about Transit Equity Day from connecting with Michael from your all shop, the Labor Network for Sustainability, we were really excited about what the possibilities might be in the Midwest. And as Vera said, we are such a mix of rural and urban, small city, big city, suburban. And so it's been really fun to bring people together from across those mixes, and everybody can wrap their arms around it in some way. Like the tweet that's been going around today that's been saying, you can participate in Transit Equity Day no matter where you are. And that's definitely true.
Absolutely. Where can we find both of your organizations? Where can people get involved?
Yeah, I want to thank the REAMP network for also bringing us on board. So although we come from a perspective of advocating for people with disabilities, we also know that climate change is something that affects people with disabilities, right? We know that all issues intersect, and that's why we need to have this mindset of working together. So we're really excited. Again, I represent the Ability Center and Community Advocates for Transportation Rights. The Ability Center can be found at abilitycenter.org. Our Facebook can also be found at Ability Center. And for Cater, they can be found at Toledo Area Transportation Rights. And we have our Instagram and Twitter handle as well on screen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Vera, Gail, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful to see the Midwest step out and be so powerful and getting a lot of these groups together. So we definitely thank REAMP Network for that. We also are going to be putting all these links to everyone's organizations within the chat. So please definitely use those links and absolutely join the conversation with #TransitEquityDay on all our social networks. Next, we will go to Christopher Jackson. Christopher Action Jackson is a native of Muskogee, Oklahoma. He currently resides in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and is a professional on-the-road semi-tractor and trailer driver supplying the Americas with goods and services. He's an activist of many issues such as transit, true affordable housing, the homeless veterans, and the homeless citizens in South Carolina, and anyone is in need. Whenever you call Action Jackson, he's there. And we really want to emphasize this. He is literally going to be there with the project he's going to be presenting on. He's received his Bachelor of Science degree in Human Services and certificate in skill in commercial driving courses from Springfield College and the Miller Mott Technical College. Remember that together we go forward. Christopher Action Jackson, thank you for joining the program.
Thank you for having me. Currently, I'm in the snow here in Mount Vernon, South Carolina, Mount Vernon, Missouri. Right now in Charleston, they're having a Rosa Parks breakfast. Big thing. Attorney William Hamilton III and our crew there is doing a big breakfast thing. It got a lot of people involved. It was great to see. I was supposed to be there, but under circumstances, I'm doing what I do best. Transit equity is phenomenal. Everyone can participate. I catch the bus regularly when I'm there, but being stuck in traffic and not being able to get anywhere swiftly, the buses there in South Carolina is poor. you have to wait a lot and a long time. So I got involved. I moved to Charleston in 2014 from Charlotte. I stayed in Charlotte over a decade. And being able to jump on the link system and being able to jump on a bus and everything connect was very, very great. But to get to Charleston, an area where it was hard to get somewhere, it took almost 2 hours to get downtown. Something that only takes about 15 minutes was horrible. So I began to join the people together of all the neighborhoods in the Somerville area of Berkeley and Dorchester counties and Charleston County. And I linked in with Attorney William Hamilton, with Best Friends of Low Country Transit. And I began to get with some of the legislators there who we help vote in and say, hey, what are we going to do to better this? And what better day to say happy birthday, Rosa? Had she been here, I know she would be very proud of all of us. And just to hear all the different links of us all over the United States on this awesome video is phenomenal. And like I told you, Bakari, I am looking forward to connecting with you guys when I'm in your cities, because you never know when I'm coming. So I am so grateful to be a part of this great movement. And like I said, together we go forward. But I am not just called Chris Action Jackson for nothing. I drive a Kenworth T680, 80,000 pound, 450 horsepower machine to get your goods and services to you. So y'all just continue to pray for us truck drivers out here, because we're trying to keep it going and make it happen. So thank you guys for having me on. And like I said, live from Mount Vernon, the beautiful snowy state of Missouri right now. Grateful to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. And yes, if you'd like to meet and have Christopher Jackson come and meet your group and your transit organization, please let him know. We can put his information in the description as well as within the chats. He would love to meet with you all. I know he was just in Olathe, Kansas this past week. He was also in Baltimore, Maryland, and Delaware within the past couple of other weeks. So yes, he is definitely able to meet you all and just get to talk. And definitely, it's wonderful. Shout out to Best Friends of Low Country Transit as far as the pancake social that they're having down there. It's really wonderful as far as, breaking down bread, which I'm born and raised in the South, so that's exactly what we do. But now we will go to pictures with William Hamilton from Best Friends of Low Country Transit. So this is what is going on right now. And you may have seen the point in the beginning of the video, but it's from a recipe that Rosa Parks had for her pancakes. And they're actually serving that to not only the folks in Charleston, but they're actually serving it to the houses population there as well. So we definitely thank them for sharing that with us. And now we are going to go to a recorded testimony from the United Methodist Women. This is from the 2021 community hearing on transit equity from Greensboro, North Carolina. So we will go to that video.
With United Methodist Women. Karlah, thank you very much for joining us today. Please take yourself off mute and remember to speak slowly for the interpreters. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Karlah Yvonne Burton. I am a Christian. I am a member of United Methodist Women, Mission Coordinator for Social Action, St. Matthew's, United Methodist Church, Greensboro, North Carolina, a United Methodist Earthkeeper, and chairperson of our Creation Care Ministry. Originally from Knoxville, Tennessee, I can appreciate the beauty of the parks, the mountains, and beaches in our area. I am also an avid swimmer, so I spend a great deal of time outdoors, especially in the summertime. Today, I want to talk about the environmental impact of mass transit and equal access. Climate change is not an impossible obstacle to overcome. As a member of United Methodist Women, one of our 2021 to 2024 mission priorities is climate justice, which incorporates both aspects of today's topic. As a student in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, from 2014 to 2017, I wrote a part Piedmont Authority for Regional Transportation Bus between Greensboro and Winston-Salem, North Carolina, in addition to utilizing the local bus system in each city. Usually, passengers were male, commuting to work or school, and predominantly people of color. One hurdle during my time as a regular commuter was access. A typical morning walk to catch a Greensboro city bus was 30 to 40 minutes. From the downtown bus depot, I was able to switch to a park bus that would take me directly to Winston-Salem, where a Winston-Salem Transit Authority or WSDOT bus would get me to school with a total morning travel time of about 2.5 hours each day. This may not be feasible, however, for people who have mobility issues. For example, the total travel time for getting around or going to school may be significantly increased. Where there are discriminatory attitudes, decision making regarding equal access is a very serious issue. I was thankful to have reliable transportation, although the park bus fleet does not currently have any environment friendly vehicles. The city of Greensboro now uses several electric battery rechargeable vehicles. I am not aware of any currently being used by WSDOT. Quality of life for all residents in the Triad, North Carolina, stands to be improved with the addition of non-fossil fuel energy source vehicles, given the reduction in carbon dioxide emissions and use of an alternative fuel energy source. Only a small percentage of the world's population in sustained action is required to make a difference in the trend of climate change. Increasing awareness and accessibility may too result in more residents opting to commute via mass transit, another simple way to lower greenhouse emissions and combat global warming. We need to be more personally accountable in Christ. We need more alternative fuel source vehicles. Thank you, and I want you to know that addressing this issue will make a big difference in the lives and health of our local residents by lessening air pollution and by helping to preserve and love our world.
Thank you so much, Karlah. And thank you to all of our panelists for your wonderful testimonies and providing different perspectives on the importance of public transit in your lives and the lives of many others.
Absolutely. We thank you for Karlah Burton for that statement. And thank you and shout out to North Carolina as well. Next, we will go to Simon Husted. He is a passionate member of the Buffalo Transit Riders United, a group formed in 2016 to elevate the visibility and voices of bus riders across the Buffalo Metro. Simon is a longtime bus driver and has observed how lack of public transportation intersects with a wide range of other matters. B-TRU, as well as a wider spectrum of other local organizations, have been calling on the city to start a scalable snow removal sidewalk program for years. This year, Transit Equity Day has spun into a week-long community snow shoveling titled Shoveling for Transit Equity Week. Simon, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. And it's funny because we also have a press conference coming up where we'll be, I gotta catch a bus in about 20 minutes. And we're gonna have it downtown to talk about what we've contributed so far for volunteer sidewalk shoveling. We've had 40 different teams register, and we're still gonna run through it till the end of Sunday because we did get about 12 inches of snow yesterday.
Well, yes, that was actually my next question. Explain for us who, like for myself and others who live in more warmer climates, why is sidewalk snow removal so important for transit riders in Buffalo?
You know, it's an excellent question. And honestly, I always like to picture it this way. A lot of people woke up this morning feeling I'm snowed in, I can't get anywhere because I have to wait for a plow to come through my side street so I can pull out of my driveway. That's what happens on my street. That's what happens on a lot of streets, is that they wait for the plow so they're free. Bus riders should honestly feel a lot of times they're always snowed in the winter, because often our sidewalks are never clear and some people do not want to risk their life walking in the middle of the street. It is a lot of times we hear it's not my problem. It's not my problem, or it's not, I can't, it's someone else, the property owner has to shovel the sidewalk. That's what we hear from the city. That's what we hear from our NFTA or transit authority. And it's not working, and it's not a solution to a problem. It's just pivoting the problem to someone else. We could look at other cities that are doing this: Syracuse, Toronto, Rochester. All of them get a large amount of snow, and all of those cities take an active role in removing it, so that bus riders and school children and just regular pedestrians who are trying to get somewhere like 3 blocks down the street or go to a park without needing to drive a car can actually do it. So that, that's really the connection, because it's often, bus riders spend just as much time walking and waiting for a bus as they do actually riding a bus, sadly.
Yes, absolutely. And I like how you mentioned that, people shuffle off the problem to others. So it's good that you all are actually, taking the initiative and doing something about it. That's really admirable of you all.
Yeah. And, I just, I love hearing so much about what's going on in other cities right now. And I wanted just a brief about what's going on in Buffalo, because it seems to now also be, we seem to see the same reflection across the rest of this nation, where we have not a shortage of bus operators, but a shortage of transit authorities willing to pay bus operators what they really deserve. And right now we have emergency bus suspension. We have an emergency suspension, a temporary suspension, they say. It's going to take effect on February 13th. We are losing frequency on our evening schedules as well as our weekend schedules, and then they're suspending all but 3 commuter bus routes. This is stuff that really is impactful. This is on top of our mind. This was just announced last week, and it's one of those things where it's going to make a big impact, and we need to increase the wages of bus operators, and we need to inspire people to also consider a career in being a bus operator, because a lot of people truly do need that service. And we can't be living with 1-hour frequencies at 7 p.m. on a weekend, or an evening, because that's not livable.
Absolutely. Where can people find you?
Well, we have monthly meetings, and we do a lot of this stuff virtually. So we have a Facebook group, we have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter, an Instagram, all under Buffalo Transit Riders United. We always like to use the hashtag Be Truly Satisfied, Be Truly Heard, because it's our acronym. So if you search that, you'd be welcome to get connected. And because we're doing a lot of things right now virtually, you can even interact with us much of the time away from Buffalo.
Absolutely. Simon Husted, Buffalo Transit Riders United, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Really quickly, we will go to recorded testimony from the 2021 community hearing on transit equity from Clint Sobratti. Please enjoy.
You had it right first, Sobratti.
Okay, great, Sobratti, who will be sharing his experience in Montgomery County, Maryland. Welcome, Clint. Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for introducing me, and good morning to everyone. My name is Clint Sobratti, and I reside in Montgomery County, Maryland, just 40 minutes away from the nation's capital. I am a devoted father, husband, human rights, and climate advocate. I have been employed by Montgomery County government of Department of Transportation, Ride-On, for the last 10 years, where I've held the position as a bus operator and a transit coordinator. I am one of the vice president of UFCW Local 1994 McGeo and a shop steward for the union as well. To provide you with a brief background history, Montgomery County is very diverse, and our passengers reflect that diversity. I always say, if you want to see what democracy look like, jump on a Montgomery County ride-on bus. Whether our passengers are young, old, able, disabled, Black, brown, or white, our buses serve communities of all ethnicities and socio-economic status. However, it is the impoverished community who have a greater dependency on public transportation, which is why we need to have a reliable transit system. Therefore, I strongly support expanding both rail and transit operating system by adding privatization lane in all the largest cities in the state of Maryland. Statistics in a recent article from a Journal of Advanced Transportation show that having private bus lane could reduce delays related to gridlock traffic by as much as 66.4%. Additionally, having private bus lane can motivate residents to utilize the transit system as their main source of transportation to and from or other desired destinations, which will in return generate cash flow into our local economy. However, one of the main issues that need to be addressed is related to mechanical maintenance. Buses and rail need to be serviced regularly to improve carbon emissions, to be more climate friendly, and reduce breakdown that results in delay in the middle of a bus route. Once these issues are addressed and private lanes are added, buses should arrive at their assigned bus route on time, which will result in a better overall experience for passengers, being that safety and punctuality is their #1 priority. Public transportation is an essential service to our local communities, and we are all connected to our passengers. They are our nurses at our local hospital, our receptionists at our physician office, our waiters at our favorite restaurants, our child care provider, and so much more. This is why we need sufficient funding to expand our transit system. If we truly value our essential workers, including our transit family, we need to take action now and invest in the future of public transportation to ensure that the health and well-being are a priority, that all our passengers have affordable, reliable, and equal access to public transportation service. As you know, the transit system plays a critical role in our local community and economy. So when we invest in public transportation, we invest in our workforce and we generate additional revenue for our local economy as well. Therefore, I encourage you to support privatization of bus lane and electrifying our bus fleet, as well as other transit expansion programs that offer solutions that aligns with this cause so that Maryland will continue to thrive and be a progressive state for generations to come. I would like to thank everyone for their time, this moment, and their energy.
Wow, thank you so much, Clint, and thank you for your representation as a president and member of USCW. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much to Clint Sobratti for his testimony for the 2021 community hearing on Transit Equity Day. Now we're bringing one of our Zoom squad, as we call him, that was so helpful and instrumental in putting this production together, Rebekah Whilden from Sierra Club. Rebekah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm actually like on video. So I knew this was coming, but you love the camera and I'm like, oh, I'm a behind the scenes person.
I don't love the camera. I just love bringing everybody from behind the scenes, but we got you on here now. So yeah, so as of now, if you're just now joining us, welcome to the second hour of Transit Equity Day 2022. My name is Bakari Height, transit organizer with Labor Network for Sustainability. Again, this is Rebekah Whilden from Sierra Club. We also like to thank Sierra Club for their generous donations to Transit Equity Day. So let's read off some events.
Let's do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that weren't able to live stream today, but we just want to make notice of them as of now. And I'll read the first one. So there's a virtual event going on that's going to be operating by Genesis. the Gamma affiliate of the Bay Area, and they're doing a Transit Equity Day online rally. It'll be via Zoom. It'll be today from noon to 1:15, that's Pacific Standard Time. So you got a little bit of a while. So that it's going to be from a lot of the organizers: Genesis, 350 Bay Area, the Sierra Club, the Democratic Socialists of America, as well as with the Bay Area Transit Equity Allies. And they're going to be going online to demand that their elected officials and transit agencies stand with transit riders and workers. So they'll hear from different speakers. They're also going to be making and urging them to act on the transit equity in the Bay Area. If you know, the Bay Area is probably one of the most expensive areas in the world to live in. So that definitely that intersection of transit and housing also comes into play here as well, as a lot of folks do have to move farther and further out from the cities in order to, what we call in the planning community, the drive to qualify symptom. So speakers will include AC Transit Board member Javanka Beckles. Shout out to her. We've actually had her on one of the panels, as well as with ATU Local 192 members and others. So you can definitely sign up to attend on our website.
Awesome. The next one is in Long Beach. So they're doing a letter drop for public data, public transit, and public workers. So they are meeting at noon Pacific time until 6 p.m. So if you get off work at 5, run over there, join them. They're meeting at the city manager's office in Long Beach City Hall on Ocean Boulevard, and at the Long Beach Transit on East Anaheim Street in Long Beach. So it seems like it's going to be a great event. And there's also another one in Long Beach. Bakari, you want to take that one away?
Sure. That'll be a virtual event with the Long Beach Alliance for Clean Energy. And they're doing a public work appreciation via Zoom. And this will be on Sunday. Well, this has happened already. So if you'd like to join the link, please contact Tiffany Samore-Davy, who's the executive director of the Long Beach Alliance for Clean Energy at 562-241-2180. Again, that's 562-241-2180. Rebekah, you want to take away the Sacramento event?
Yes. So Sacramento Transit Stop Good, Bad, and Ugly Photo Contest. So this is an event that's happening for the next month. So they're doing a photo contest that will begin today through March 4th. And it's with the Sacramento Transit Riders Union umbrella organization. And I guess we got to keep going because there are 60 events happening.
Yes. Yes. Shout out to San Bernardino. They are going to be doing a countywide free fare day. Everybody will ride for free on Transit Equity Day, which is today. So every bus, train, and everywhere in San Bernardino County on all 5 of the local bus systems will be participating on today. So please go out and ride. If it's a beautiful day outside, please go and ride. Take Santa Cruz that way.
Yeah. So in Santa Cruz, they're doing a National Transit Equity Day awareness and education march and speeches. And it is happening today, 2 p.m. Pacific time. It looks like they're going to be securing permits. They're also going to be doing a rail to trail. So it looks like it's going to be a great event.
Absolutely. For Colorado, the Denver Streets Partnership is doing an advocates and labor representatives report, and they're going to be doing that and unveiling that in a virtual event today from 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Please contact Molly McKinley if you would like more information for that.
Awesome. In Connecticut, the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1336, they're doing a tribute to Miss Rosa Parks, and it is her birthday today. And they're having an electric bus display, and it's happening today. Apparently it started at 5:30 a.m. Eastern time today and goes until 10 p.m. So they've been up early. And then they're also doing a virtual event.
Absolutely. Shout out to Mustafa, and definitely shout out to the Sierra Club Connecticut. They're doing a virtual event, which will have happened already. If you'd like more information on that, contact Samantha Danaski. And for the DC area, the ATU Local 689 and Washington Interfaith Network will be putting on a What Does Transit Equity Mean for Transit Workers? It'll be a virtual event that will be going, that have happened already. For the DC chapter, there also will be a Transit Equity Day letter to the editor party, which is a virtual event. Contact Dina Schroeder for more information. For Green Neighbors DC, there is a free metro. The time is now, also passed. For Atlanta, there's an event that we'll be speaking on later for that. But also for the Atlanta North Georgia Labor Council, there is a Rosa Parks Transportation Solidarity March. They'll meet at the IBEW building on 501 Pulliam Street Southwest and walk to the Western MARTA station at the corners of Lee Street and Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard. Shout out to the West End and shout out to Atlanta. Take Illinois away.
Awesome. Illinois, Chicago, Jobs with Justice. They are doing an event today. It started at 10 a.m. Central Time and it's going till noon. So you still got about an hour to get there. They'll be canvassing and they'll have a press conference at the Western stop on the Forest Park Blue Line. For more details, contact Susan Hurley. There's also an event in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which we heard about earlier, and they moved it up because of the weather. Then there's also another event, Tara Halt, a Rose for Rosa Transit Equity Day celebration. So that happened this morning at 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. It's a joint effort between the NAACP, the African American Cultural Center of Indiana State University, and the Transit Court. I believe that might be next. And then in Massachusetts, I'm just going to keep going because I'm just super excited about all of these. The NAACP, TRU, and Labor Network for Sustainability are doing an amazing event about the Rosa Parks story with Angela Bassett. What? I want to go to this. It's a live stream history program and it's happening on February 18th. So I think I am going to have to go to this. And so the first part is February 4th that was pushed because, as we're going to hear a little bit later, there's some weather there. And then Nancy's going to talk to us a little bit about everything else that's happening a little bit later. And I'm super excited to hear. Do you want to take the next Boston one?
Yes, the T-Riders Union and ACE will also be doing the same thing as well, which we'll hear from later from Nancy. For Michigan, Ann Arbor, the AFT 3550 Graduate Employees Union will be doing a Transit Equity Day action at the Blake Transit Center in Ann Arbor from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. GO is partnering with a number of different unions and community groups in the area to co-host the event, as well as with the Motor City Freedom Riders in Detroit and the Detroit People's Platform. They're going to be tabling at the transit hubs in Dearborn, Michigan. You can contact them for more information. It will go from noon to 5 p.m. Eastern today. For New York, we will hear later on about the Parents to Improve School Transportation, or PIS, New York City, and they have already done their event. The School Bus Bill Rights Press Conference. There will be a link in the description to go with that. The Buffalo Transit Riders United, which we just heard from Simon, are doing the shoveling of the sidewalks. They've done that already, and we'll have a demonstration today. The main objective with that one is to elevate the need of snow removal. Thank you for that. In New Rochelle, the Tri-State Transportation will be hosting Transit Equity Day today at 10:30. Take New Mexico.
New Mexico, Albuquerque, Together for Brothers. They are doing I know, right? They're doing a live stream today at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, and then a town hall later tonight to collect stories from bus riders about zero fares and a call to action about the budget. In my hometown of Asheville, North Carolina, the Grace Circle United Methodist Women are doing a Transit Equity Day honoring Rosa Parks. It started at 9 a.m. earlier today, and it was just a drop-by event, and it seemed like it went really well. But if you want more information on that, contact Betty Thompson. In Raleigh, North Carolina, they're doing Climate Action North Carolina is doing a virtual event. The action is getting transit on track for the future. And so there's an event link. You can contact Amelia Covington if you have any questions about that. Now, Charlotte is where I live now, and Sustain Charlotte and the Charlotte Regional Transportation Coalition are doing a thank you to all the area transit system buses. They're doing a press conference. They are also delivering treats to all of them. If you wanna, the event just ended, but if you want pictures or anything, go talk to Tart Kylie. They're awesome. They'll be your best friend. In Durham, their Bike Durham is doing an event. They're actually doing a bus stop cleanup, which is incredible. They're also going to be doing a press event today from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. And they've got a lot of other groups also helping out. Eric Landfried is available to talk to you. It seems like it's going to be an awesome event. I'll let you take Oregon.
Shout out to Oregon and shout out to Bus Riders United in Portland. They are going to be doing a collab protest at 4012 Southeast 17th Avenue in Portland, outside of the Tri-Met Lost and Found, from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please go to the link for more information. I will also go on to Philly. Shout out to Transit Forward Philadelphia. They will be doing a gratitude and driver appreciation throughout the entire city of Philly. Actually had a wonderful chance to speak with the students in Temple that are helping out with that. So shout out to them and shout out to Yasha and Transit Forward Philly. That will be today from 12 to way late at night at 11:59. So please join that. Shout out to Pittsburgh Public Transit, with who I'm wearing their shirt. They will be doing a Taking Back Our Seat on the Bus Celebrate Transit Equity Day with PPT Facebook Live event. Shout out to Dan and Laura, everybody there down in Pittsburgh. And also, I wanted to tell you all about Pittsburgh Transit for All PA, which is a statewide transit coalition. I had the wonderful pleasure of working with them this past year. They are going to be doing an op-ed publication from 9 to 5 today. And they're going to be publishing an op-ed in the Harrisburg paper in advance of the governor's budget address calling for more transit funding. I'll let you take Rhode Island.
Rhode Island and Providence, the Rhode Island Transit Riders are doing Transit Equity Day in front of the Department of Administration. It doesn't start for another 40 minutes, so you can make it there. Lisa Birkin is going to be super excited if you do, and if you heard about it on YouTube, give us props. Just saying. Also in Providence, they're doing a press conference to announce the addition of a Rosa Parks bus shelter. It's going to be super exciting. That press conference is happening at 3 p.m. today. So you have a little less than 2 hours to go. And they're actually going to have all of that linked on their homepage, on their website. Need more information, go to the Transit Equity Day website and you'll see it all. I'll let you take South Carolina.
Well, South Carolina, we've heard from already. The breakfast with Rosa Parks Featherlight peanut butter pancakes, yummy. Happened this morning at No Charleston. Shout out to William Hamilton and Best Friends of Low Country Transit. For Texas, Link Houston is doing a virtual Transit Equity Day challenge today. Well, actually, it will be from January 31st to today. They'll be doing a virtual challenge to the Transit Authority's board members and most senior staff while encouraging others to join. The link will be in the descriptions. San Antonio will be doing a Little Free Library and social justice book giveaway at the Little Free Library and at 2158 Steves Avenue in San Antonio. Please take via Route 32 to this location. This will be going on from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time today. For Tarrant County, the Tarrant Transit Alliance will be doing a transit equity social media campaign. It will go all day. This is a social media campaign, so please click the link for more information. I'll let you take Tennessee.
Tennessee and Memphis, they're doing a virtual event, the Sierra Club, Memphis Interfaith Coalition for Action and Hope. They are doing a virtual event today from 2:30 to 4 p.m. Central Time. So you still got a little bit of time. In Washington, the Transit Riders Union, Front and Centered, and Move Redmond are all doing a driver appreciation action. And that's happening today. Contact Kate Wilson for more information on that. In Seattle, their Move Redmond is also doing another event. And it is well, I guess it's already happened from 10 to 11 today, but you can contact Hurt, who has more information about how that event went. Do you want to do the big news in Wisconsin?
Yes, so as they've said before, there was a proclamation from the governor of the state of Wisconsin for Transit Equity Day. So that proclamation will go on live on the Zoom link from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Time. In Eau Claire, the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1310 is putting a rose on every bus and will be holding a press conference in Eau Claire. The link for this will be into the chat. The La Crosse Transit Advocates will be doing an Equity Week in La Crosse, so you still have time to go and get in with that. The Milwaukee Transit Riders Union will be doing a KRM call-in day at 1836 West Fond du Lac Avenue in Milwaukee from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time. The Wisconsin Green Muslims will also be participate in the Transit Equity Network. Please contact Huda Alkoff for more information. Oshkosh, the Esther Fox Valley and Sierra Wisconsin Transportation Team will be doing a proclamation. Please click the link for that. And for Viroqua, the Transit Equity Day Running will be doing an event from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please contact Barbara Richards for more information. That was a handful. That was a lot of events. We thank you all so much for posting your events and being so gracious as to inviting everyone to share with us. We would like for you to share this conversation with hashtag Transit Equity Day. And please follow us on all of our social media networks, LN4S on Twitter, as well as with Labor, the number 4 Sustainability. Again, that's Labor, the number 4 Sustainability on Facebook and on Instagram. We will go live next with Nancy Smith. Nancy Smith is the program manager of the Boston Mayor's Office of Emergency Management. She was responsible for developing community relationships in support of emergency preparedness and community resilience in close coordination with other public health departments and Boston Emergency Management Services. She's currently working on several special programming exploring rising tides in Heat Island, as well as the climate change action adaptation for the city of Boston. She's a lifetime member of Black Emergency Managers Association International and a member of Team Rubicon. Ms. Smith is a member of the 2020 NAACP Transit Environmental Climate Justice Committee. She is also currently a member of the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, USO Commuters Rail Community Coalition, T-Riders Union, and Black Boston COVID-19 Coalition. Nancy Smith, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi there, Bakari. How are you? I decided to do something that I've always wanted to do, was to pretend as though I was a news reporter outside, right? So
you're gonna have to give us the weather report right now.
Yes, it's gonna be the weather report, and I'm just gonna move over here a little bit so that I can get everyone to see what's happening in Boston right now, okay?
All right.
Thank you. Okay, so basically I would like to just say to everyone on behalf of the NAACP National Committee, T-Riders Union, and all the local transit advocates, happy Transit Day, happy Rosa Parks Day, and happy Black History Month. Bakari, we would normally be in a historical Nubian Square, formerly known as Dudley Station, the largest bus hub for transportation site in the city of Boston. The name was changed by the Roxbury community because of the former governor by the name of Governor Dudley, had laws on the books and ownership of slaves. So this has been in the works for a long time. And please learn more about this on blackfacts.com, which is one of our partners this year. So getting back to this weather celebration, the schools are closed here and the MBTA has already removed specific large fleet vehicles out of service for the safety, not only for the drivers, but for the passengers. It's an amazing thing to actually watch the work that's being done by the MBTA and also the City of Boston Public Works as they prepare this city for this storm. But we will be back out there next Friday, February 11th, and we will be returning to Nubian Square to officially launch Transportation Day and month. You see, Boston is different. They have been doing this for a couple of years. So all the other locations, think about adding this in as a month so you can get everything in. So we will be heading back doing the proclamation, distributions of PPEs to riders, and listening to a new initiative leadership that's going to be happening with the T riders called Fix the 14. I do want to give a shout out to one of our supporters of this, Thaddeus Miles and the Boston Public Health Commission, and providing those PPEs for us. And please remember that during this time, we will be continuing and joining and having different events later on, February 18th, a live streaming, which was mentioned earlier, and a shout out to our other partners, the Washington, D.C. Culture and History. The registration is up for that, so you can just jump right in and get that. The final event that we will be doing will be on Monday, February 28th, and that's also a virtual panel discussion called Women in Movements. We are extremely, extremely excited that we will have with us Sheila McCullen Keys. You guys heard her mention earlier about the pancake from Rosa Parks. Well, she is her niece, and she will be joining us in this discussion along with some other surprise people because we're confirming stuff, so I can't give too much out. But we will also have our youngest activists from out of the Hennigan School who will be working and discussing stuff with Mellow Miles of the T-Riders Union about fixing the 14. A lot of things are happening. Then I would just like to say that, I am truly humbled every day to work in the city of Boston under the leadership in the office of mayor and the office of emergency management under Chief Benford and Madame Mayor Michelle Wu. Please hear, this is Donald, he's holding the laptop. I just want to let y'all know I had to have my cameraman, thank you.
Thank you.
Hear the wonderful message from the city of Mayor Wu's message to the city. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. And we will play that message now.
Hi, everyone. Happy Transit Equity Day and happy birthday to Rosa Parks. Thank you for your leadership in making sure we're continuing to celebrate and advance her legacy. Rosa Parks is an inspiration to transit advocates everywhere. Her courage sparked the Montgomery bus boycotts, generating critical momentum for the civil rights movement. Ms. Parks was unwavering in her commitment to ending segregation and believed deeply that the right to be treated like a human being must extend to public transit. While we've made great progress since that fateful day when she claimed her seat on a bus in Montgomery, we still have a ways to go. Today, Black bus riders spend 64 more hours per year on stalled buses than white riders. We need a transit system that is accessible to all, one that truly connects all residents in all of our neighborhoods. My forever sister in service and trailblazer, Mayor Kim Janey, understood deeply the importance of transit justice. I am so grateful for her work in establishing the city's first fare-free pilot program for the 28 bus route, and we are working to continue expanding that. On my first full day as mayor, we filed an order with the Boston City Council, and I'm grateful to my colleagues for allocating $8 million in federal funding to expand and extend this fare-free bus program. We've extended the 28 bus for 2 more years and expanded the program to include the 23 and 29 bus routes as well. All 3 of these routes travel through Blue Hill Ave, a priority corridor for increases in transit reliability and ridership. Already, we've seen big improvements in the 4 months that the 28 bus route has been fare-free. The 28 has had the highest ridership across the MBTA, 92% of pre-pandemic levels, at a time where ridership is dropping everywhere else. In contrast, ridership across the board has been at 53% of pre-pandemic weekday levels. Bostonians voted with their feet, and the city is responding with action. These buses also serve a ridership that is reflective of our communities. More than 59% of riders along these 3 bus routes are low income. More than 96% are people of color. Making these 3 bus routes fare-free connects our communities, improves transit accessibility, and brings us one step closer to a brighter, more reliable transit future. Thank you so much for your advocacy, your partnership, and your leadership. Happy Transit Equity Day.
Thank you so much from the newly elected mayor of Boston, Mayor Michelle Wu, for wonderful statements for that. Next, we will be going back to New York. We will be going live to we will be going live to a statement from Sarah from PIST from New York City, and we'll be going live to that now.
This is Parents to Improve School Transportation, or PIST NYC. We are gathering on Rosa Parks' birthday with other caregivers, individuals, advocates, and allies from labor in the community to say that access to education is a civil and human right for students of all abilities and all housing. Transit equity, including safe, on-time, fully staffed school bus routes, is key to that access. This fall, we who track complaints about school busing found that fully half of those had to do with no bus showing up at all. Communication from the authorities is often non-existent, false, or insulting. There's inequity as some families have more time and internet and English fluency than others. Youth from multiple schools share long rides with no social distancing and diesel fumes. This hurts both education and public health. But the worker shortage predates this pandemic. We and the unions predicted 10 years ago that cuts to school bus pay and job protections would drive many from the workforce. Then during remote learning, the city laid off every school bus worker. And due to this, disabled youth lacked bus routes for the first half of summer 2020. We also need more paras and nurses on the buses. That's why we chant 1, 2, 3, pay the workers what they need, and 7, 8, 9, get the kids to school on time. Our coalition will be marching this next month and petitioning to get a school bus Bill of Rights on the 2022 November ballot. Rosa Parks taught us not to give in. Thank you.
And thank you so much from Sarah from PIST, New York City, to discuss of the inequities on probably the largest transit system, the school buses. We thank them and we shout out to them for the definite hard work. Next, we'll be going down to Atlanta. We will be going live to Rolanda Powell. Rolanda is knowledgeable about transportation and mobility. She is knowledgeable about policy and infrastructure advocacy. As an advocate and a community leader, she is familiar with Atlanta's local political landscape, government, and other civic entities. Rolanda is someone who recognizes and understands Atlanta's history, especially its racial disparities, and she will tell us about the work she's doing with Atlanta Bicycle Coalition today. Rolanda, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me today. And I'm just here to share what we're doing down in Atlanta with a lot of our partners down here in support with our elected officials who are. Today's been an amazing day. Our social media has been on and popping. We've given them a challenge to take the bus today, Transit Equity Day, and basically get the experience of, what it's like to ride the bus. And so all throughout the day, we have support from our city council president, all the way down throughout all of our city council elected officials, and they've taken the pledge. They've tweeted about riding the bus. And so that's what we're doing today down here in Atlanta. And we're asking our riders, if you see our elected officials, tweet that about that. tweet, and show that they're riding. But in addition to that, we want to make sure that the issues are being brought to light. And we're asking people to share the good, the bad, and the ugly today. And this is the perfect time to do that because we have their ear today. And they're riding today, and it's a great opportunity to share and maybe even stop them today and say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. And is there anything we can do about that? Because MARTA, our bus transportation, is doing a model redesign, and they want to hear from people and knowing what do you want, more frequent rides? What is it that you need to make this transit system better for everyone? So that's what we're hoping to gain out of today.
Absolutely. And we definitely want to acknowledge those who have participated. We shouted out Councilmember Amir Farouk earlier today on Twitter for doing the challenge. And then also shout out to a newly elected Councilmember Jason Dozier, who also got a proclamation passed. So
his first one.
His first one. So congratulations to him, and also to Mayor Andre Dickens, who we've had on the one of our programs before on Labor Network for Sustainability. But yes, definitely. Tell us more about the Transit Equity Day Bus Challenge.
So we all got together, a collaboration of many different partners and organizations. And what I mentioned earlier, it's just basically an opportunity to experience it. If you're selling a product, you don't know what it's like until you actually use the product. So we're asking them to experience it, get on the bus, ride the bus today, take the train today. But our focus today is primarily on the bus because of Rosa Parks and and it's going quite well. And we have a lot of people that's been sharing on their social media and saying they're taking the bus today. So that's what today's the bus challenge is about. We're asking our elected officials to ride the bus and continue the conversation, and not just ride it for today, but continue it throughout the month, throughout the rest of the year.
Absolutely. And you also have a hashtag specifically for Atlanta, Take Transit ATL. Yes. Also, we also want to make you all mention that MARTA Army, who's one of the partners for this project, is releasing Operation Bus Stop Census in the report today. And this has been a 2-year-long process that I've actually been involved with as well, that was born out of Transit Equity Day 2020. And it's really wonderful to release that report. Please go to the links in our socials if you'd like to have access to that report. Rolanda, thank you so much.
I just wanted to mention all of our partners. It was MARTA Army, Advance Atlanta, Southern Environmental Law Center to help create the bus challenge. So thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And we definitely want to dedicate this to the memory of the CEO, Jeff Parker, who unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago. He was definitely dedicated to reaching out to a lot of folks as he was riding transit. So this is also another dedication in his memory and to continuing the work that he did tirelessly. So thank you also for that.
Thank you.
Next, we would go to another testimony from the 2021 community hearing from Jonathan Smith. He was the president of the New York Metro Area Postal Local Union, TIN, and he did this for the transit rider and labor advocates, especially for the union members who did transit. Please enjoy.
Happy and happy birthday to Rosa Parks, who inspired today's events, along with many thousands of other fighters for racial justice. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Simon Husted and Samantha Garcia for their recorded testimony today. This is day 2 of the community hearings on transit equity. And once again, we'll hear the personal stories of workers and community leaders who rely on public transit. I'll be your moderator, Michael Leon Guerrero. I'm the Executive Director of the Labor Network for Sustainability. At this time, I'd like to welcome our hearing facilitators for joining us today. Ozawa Benishi Albert is Yuchi and Anishinaabe and serves as the movement building coordinator with the Indigenous Environmental Network. She began her organizing work with the Native Lands Toxics Campaign of Greenpeace, and she was a founding board member of the Indigenous Environmental Network, serving on the Youth Task Force of the Southern Organizing Committee. She helped create the Native American Voters Alliance and served as lead organizer and operations director. Gail Francis is Strategic Director of the REAMP Network. She works closely with REAMP's members and action teams to help deepen their knowledge and spur action so we can equitably decarbonize the Midwest. She was previously Senior Associate at the Center on Wisconsin Strategy, Communications Director for the Teamster Rank and File Education and Legal Defense Center, and a field organizer for the United Electrical, Radio, and Machine Workers of America. I would like to remind all our presenters and facilitators to please remember to speak slowly to allow for the simultaneous interpretation and to mute your audio when you're not speaking. I will start to notify you about the time remaining for your testimony in a couple of minutes. So let's get started with our panel. The first person we will hear from is Jonathan Smith, President of the New York Metro Area Postal Union of the American Postal Workers Union, Local 10. President Smith, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Looking forward to hear your story and for sharing your insights. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Jonathan Smith, and I am the President of New York Metro Area Postal Union, Local 10 of the American Postal Workers Union. We represent more than 5,000 members in the New York metro area and more than 200,000 nationwide. The total postal network, which includes Mail Carriers Union and the Mail Handlers Union, represent more than 650,000 workers. We are in every state and we are in every city of the United States. Even the smallest rural community, there is a post office staffed by our members. We serve the public at the counters, process mail, deliver packages. Sure that they will be delivered to your doorstep or P.O. box to the recipient. As you all know, we helped preserve democracy in our last election, and we were proud to do it. Even under challenging circumstances, we processed more than 65 million ballots nationwide. It gave us a great sense of pride, proving once again, we deliver. My local represents thousands of employees throughout the city of New York, and our members live throughout the metropolitan New York City area. We work shifts that cover 24 hours of every day, and many of our members rely on the bus and train to get to work and to get to their families, and their families also rely on this service as well. If it were not for the transit in our city, we would not be able to process your mail. Because our workers would find it near impossible to get to and from work, we also would find it hard to deliver the mail, as many carriers depend on public transportation to get the mail to the communities that depend on them. Now more than ever, we deliver your stimulus checks, your unemployment checks, and hopefully soon, postal banking. During the pandemic, we all know that ridership is down. So who is taking the bus and train? Essential workers. Yes, essential workers still must get to work and back. This includes postal workers, but also healthcare workers, grocery workers, child care providers, and more. If we respect essential workers as much as we say we do, we must fund transit so that service continues reliably, affordably, and safely. Operators, just like postal workers, must have personal protective equipment and sick and hazard pay. Bus and rail cars must be cleaned more thoroughly and more often. And my members also depend on the personal relationships they have with bus drivers and train conductors, especially those workers that work the overnight shift or get off very early in the morning. These personal relationships makes them feel safe and comfortable as they travel. Beyond the pandemic, we must fund transit, just like we must fund the Postal Service, and we must preserve democracy. Make no mistake, transit and Postal Service both serve to preserve and foster our democracy. Low-income communities, communities of colors, working class communities need transit to access jobs, healthcare, and food. They need transit as a ladder out of poverty. Voters need transit to get to polling places when they're not allowed to vote by mail. We also should electrify our passenger and school buses. If you live in New York City, you see and feel and breathe this toxic, polluted air that diesel cars and buses emit. These fumes are destroying our planet and affecting our health. Electrifying buses is an important step to cleaning our air and fostering good health. especially for the future generation. The Postal Service should be a partner in electrifying of our transportation system. There are post offices in every town and city across America. Let us install charging stations, infrastructures at post office. It would be the most cost efficient and convenient way to cover the country. Finally, as we invest in transit, let us keep transit workers front and center. Let us make sure that transit stays public. Let us make sure that transit workers have a free and fair opportunity to join a union and engage in collective bargaining to improve their work conditions. Let us make sure we are paying transit workers wages and benefits that can sustain a family and include quality health care and a safe and prosperous retirement. This is not an entitlement, but a right that all citizens should have. The investment in transit will help local communities both in terms of providing ability to travel reliably and affordably, but also in terms of benefiting the local economy. Thank you for letting me testify.
Thank you so much, President Smith. Appreciate your testimony, and thank you for making those connections between the Postal Service and public transit and the importance of both to our communities.
Thank you so much for that statement. Yes, we have to be cognizant of everyone who's taking public transit because they may be the people that deliver your mail, they may be the people who are delivering your products, like Chris Jackson is doing, and then maybe the people that can save you in a jam. Speaking of Albuquerque, we wanted to bring back an event that we discussed already. Together for Brothers in Albuquerque, New Mexico, we'll be hosting a town hall that will be live streamed tonight at 4:30 Mountain Standard Time. They'll be collecting stories from bus riders about zero fares as they just initiated a zero fare policy for the transit system in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and have a call to action for the fiscal year 23 budget. So if you'd like to visit, please go to togetherforbrothers.org. Again, that's togetherforbrothers.org to join in the conversation. Also, speaking of Albuquerque, our next presenter is Michael Leon Guerrero. He is the Executive Director of Labor Network for Sustainability and one of the reasons that we're here today. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Bakari. Congratulations. It looks like another successful Transit Equity Day, and also appreciate the shout out. Congratulations to Together for Brothers for all the amazing work they're doing. Albuquerque is going to be a city for free fares, and that's due to their work. They started with students and getting free fares for them, and now that's expanded to all riders. So big shout out to them.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the history of Transit Equity Day for people who may not be familiar with it. How did it start and who was all involved?
Yeah, so this started, the conversation really started back in 2017 at there were two things. We had a training for Amalgamated Transit Union local presidents in Maryland back in 2017 about climate change. And as part of that, we also did one of our national convenings called the Labor Convergence on Climate. And that's where the idea actually came up. It was actually ATU that suggested the idea of doing Transit Equity Day on Rosa Parks' birthday as a way to lift up and make the connections between equity and how transit addresses equity, how it creates good jobs, workers' rights, addressing climate change, and also the importance of it being a public good and a right that everybody should have access to. So it started back then. 2018 was the first one we did. 20 cities participated, and as you all mentioned, now we're up to over 60. And it really has been just an amazing national collective effort. And and I think the most important thing about Transit Equity Day is it's really led and organized by grassroots organizations with very few resources, from the major cities to smaller cities and small towns, as we've heard from Fort Wayne and Charlotte, North Carolina, and Charleston, South Carolina. All across this country, it really is an amazing movement for transit equity. So yeah, we're really proud of how this has developed.
Absolutely. What do you see as the significance of Transit Equity Day today?
Yeah, I think, getting the Secretary of Transportation to speak, and we hearing from city councilors and mayors, I think the impact of this event, and more than the event, it's really the network of groups that have been pushing this effort. It's significant because a lot of these stories are not heard. Having this live stream, I think, is really important for that, because we actually hear from communities on the ground, folks that have been doing this work, workers, community leaders in their communities for such a long time. And for it to actually get the recognition and them to get the recognition they need, I think that's the real significance of this. Now, how can that translate is the question to policies. And, and so now we have some significant victories, as the Transportation Secretary said, and Administrator Fernandez. There are going to be resources going to communities, and that's largely because of the work of grassroots organizations and unions and others around the country that have really pushed to make this happen. And so there's a lot now, I think, in terms of the significance of Transit Equity Day and Transit Equity organizers. It's a very significant event right now, and a lot of work going forward. So really important Transit Equity Day this year.
Absolutely. And Labor Network for Sustainability is releasing a report today. Tell us a little bit about that report.
Yeah, I think, two things. So Jonathan Smith, President Smith, I think talked a lot about the importance of workers in the transit industry. And I'm going to try to do this because I thought PIST, their chant really, I think, sums it up perfectly. And I hope I get this right. I think they said 1, 2, 3, pay the workers what they need. 7, 8, 9, get the students there on time. I think that sums it up, is that in order for us to really achieve equity in terms of transit and for those communities that are dependent on transit, and by the way, 60% of transit riders are people of color, but also 50% of operators are people of color as well. And so, and folks described a lot of needs. I mean, Simon Husted talked about, services like getting snow shoveling, right? We want to electrify our systems, and we want to build up more transit infrastructure around the country. All of that has to go hand in hand in investment in our workforce as well. And one of the great things about this report that was released just this morning is that it also captures all these stories. And Transit Center Alliance for a Just Society did this great project where they got stories from people around the country who talked about what bus operators have meant in their lives. And so you'll see these snippets of these stories. And we know this, right? Bus operators, train operators do more than just drive the vehicles, right? They're social service people. They do a lot to help people in the community, and we need to really invest in them being successful. And we're going to need more workers, right? Because if the demand, all the services, infrastructure we're going to need, and to really make our systems just, that means we're going to need workers to do operations, we're going to need them to do maintenance, we're going to need them to do construction. So we need to invest in this workforce and really give these folks what they deserve in terms of pay, benefits, retirement, sick leave, all of those things. And and especially after what President Smith also described. These are essential workers, and many of them passed away in the last couple of years because of COVID, right? And so we really need to do what we can to invest in and to support our workers and the unions that represent them.
And final question, what can people who maybe are not within a labor union or within a transit organizing group do to support this effort?
Yeah, so I think it's on different levels. So I'm really happy to see that a number of the cities where activities are being organized this year are lifting up this report. From in Ann Arbor, in Detroit, St. Louis, Omaha, Charlotte, New York City, Philadelphia, Providence, Redmond, Washington. I mean, a number of cities across the country are lifting it up and doing it in a way by recognizing workers in the transit system. And so doing different appreciations like we heard, giving them food or presenting them with recognitions. So that's an important thing. And the more that we can make these connections and support these coalitions between community organizations, the unions and that represent them, I think that's one of the most important things that we can do. So we really encourage people to read this report, lift it up, share it as much as possible. And in terms of the agencies, what they can do right now is really speak to their employees. When we did the convening, one of the best conversations I had was with a bus mechanic from San Jose. His name was Duke, and he talked about the challenges they had going from diesel buses to hybrids and now to electric. So the workers know their industry. They know what it takes to improve and make our systems better. And so they need to be involved. We need to trust their leadership, just like we need to trust the leadership in the community to make our systems better. And so that's the one thing I think transit agencies can do is meet with their employees and particularly the leadership of the unions that represent them.
Absolutely. And we're about to introduce a video and a message from the International President of the Amalgamated Transit Union, John Costa. But first, Michael Leon Guerrero, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bakari, and really appreciate all the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will play that video from John Costa now.
Hello, brothers, sisters, and friends. This is John Costa, International President of the Amalgamated Transit Union. Every year on February 4th, we celebrate Rosa Parks' birthday and her courage to refuse to give up her seat. This led to the ATU to help create Transit Equity Day. This day of action focuses on public transit as a civil right. Everyone deserves safe, reliable, and affordable clean transit. Transit workers deserve living wages, benefits, safe working conditions, training, and other rights. Transit jobs are a matter of equity. This year, we are calling for investments in our members who keep our communities moving. Even before the pandemic, there were not enough workers to meet the needs of our riders. The pandemic only made it worse. We need to provide transit workers with strong wages and benefits, including paid sick time, family leave, and hazard pay. Transit Equity Day is an opportunity for us to join in and having the courage and determination of Rosa Parks. Thank you so much to everyone participating in today's important events. Whether it's holding a rally or thanking a transit worker, you're making a difference. Happy Transit Equity Day.
Thank you so much from the International Amalgamated Transit Union President, John Costa. Really powerful statement. And echoing what he said, that it doesn't matter how big or small your action is today, it definitely makes an impact and it definitely shares awareness of what we're doing here. We also wanted to read a statement from the Transport Workers Union International President, John Samuelson, and it states, bus and train operators, mechanics, and maintenance workers are the heart of our public transit systems. They go above and beyond their jobs to ensure the safety and security of passengers. A little goes a long way. However, due to an aging workforce, inadequate investment in job equality, and COVID, employment in public transit was at 84% of pre-pandemic levels as of 2021 in October. When we invest in public transit and transit workers, we level the playing field for all, creating a more just and robust society. Public transit is a lifeblood to communities across the country. We thank them so much for that statement, and that absolutely is true. The transit, especially not even in big cities, but in small towns, are the lifeblood of a city. And we definitely echo that statement with everything that's going on today. And I wanted to give final words before we depart. This work is ongoing. It's never going to stop, as transportation is always going to be a need for everyone. We're always going to need to know how to get from point A to point B, whether it's somewhere in our localities or if it's somewhere we've just met for the first time. I encourage everyone to find some kind of organization, some kind of group, or some kind of movement to join on to continue this movement. We need more of your voices, and especially the voices of those who are unheard from. We need more people of color. We need more people from the ADA accessible community. We need more people who have never been heard from before that have these stories to tell, so that we can make transit equity an amenity, an absolute necessity. We thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said before, please continue the conversation using hashtag Transit Equity Day on all of our social platforms. LN4S on Twitter, as well as with Labor, the number 4 Sustainability on Facebook and Instagram. Again, that's the Labor, the number 4 Sustainability on Facebook and Instagram. We thank you so much for joining us for this past 2 hours. We thank you so much to our presenters today, and we thank you so much to all of our sponsors, whom without none of this would have been able to be possible. Again, my name is Bakari Height. I'm the transit organizer for Labor Network for Sustainability. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a really wonderful day.
Our sons and daughters.